to really have an understanding of where we are, we need to talk about where we've come from. And so it's really my honor this evening to be in conversation with Rosette Goldstein, a Holocaust survivor, a fighter, a great-grandmother, who is going to talk to us from her perspective about what we're seeing today from what she has seen in her lifetime. Rosette is here today because of her father, David, of blessed memory, who saved her life because he entrusted a Christian family with his 3-year-old daughter, who in return saved her life. So Rosita, can you tell us about your father, David, of blessed memory, and how he knew this Christian family in the French countryside, and how you came to live with this Christian family during the Holocaust?
I was born in Paris, and in 1940, the Nazis came in, and things changed completely. Jews were not allowed to ride the subway except into the last car. They had to wear the star, which they had to buy from the French police, because the French were working right along with the Nazis at that time. Lawyers couldn't practice, doctors couldn't practice, teachers couldn't teach. Things were very bad. My father had been in the French army and was thrown out because he was a Jew. I was almost 4 years old, and my father could not get work. We lived in a house where we were the only Jews, and the people in the apartment house became very, very good friends with my parents and helped them quite a bit. But still, my dad could not find work, and he, I guess, read in the newspaper that he could apply to work in the German-French interest, and that his family would be saved. Of course, that was not true. He went and applied, and along with some other men, altogether about 70, he was accepted to work in a small town called Clay. And there they had a work camp. And the work camp was Beauregard. At the beginning, they were allowed, after working in the forest, what they did was cut trees for the German war effort. And after work at the beginning, they were allowed to go to the little farms in the area and buy a little food that they would send back to their families. These were all Jews. They were all engineers. They were, I don't know, secretaries, bakers. They became lumberjacks. So one day, my dad, who had been going to this little farm for a while and had met the farmer, Mr. Martin, asked him a question. He had become very friendly with him, and Mr. Martin liked him very much. And he asked him, Monsieur Martin, you know what's happening. I have a 4-year-old little girl, and my wife and I are very afraid for her. Would you hide her? Monsieur Martin said, I don't know. You know what can happen to me if I do something like that? They'll come after me, and they'll do to me what they might do to you. I have a family. Well, let me talk to my wife. The next day, my father went back, and Monsieur Martin said to my dad, well, we discussed it. And we have 3 daughters. We will have 4. This is... I often ask myself, could I do that? And that's how I came to be with the Martin family. I was told, my father got in touch with my mother. I was told that I was going to go by train and that Monsieur Rafa, who was our neighbor, was going to take me. But I wasn't to say a word on the train. And that if anybody asked, that I was to say that Monsieur Rafa was my dad. Pretty scared little girl. I didn't say one word. The only thing I do remember about that is looking out the train window and seeing all the men with all the guns, all these soldiers. We got to the farm that night, and my dad was waiting there. And my dad was wonderful. I adored him. So when I saw him, I felt everything was going to be okay. And he stayed with me, and we had dinner. And they put me to bed because you see, I became a little bit inebriated because French farmers always drink hard cider, and I was thirsty. So they put me to bed. The next morning, everyone was gone. My dad wasn't there. Monsieur Rafa was back in Paris, and I was with strangers. And one day, my mother appeared after a while, and my dad decided to stay the night, and we were a family again. And the next morning, he went to work. Everybody was about their business, and all of a sudden, they broke in with guns and said, "Where is David Adler?" Monsieur Martin said he went to work. He went to the forest. If he is not back in 1 hour, we're taking all of you. So they left. My mother, I did not see until the end of the war. And Monsieur Martin saddled his horse, went to the forest and told my father. My father went right back to the camp. And they punished us. They forgot me, but they punished us. They took my father's French citizenship away and mine, even though I had been born there.
So speak to us about the last time you saw your father and how living with the Makdas was.
I used to go every night to the end of a little path to the farm to wait for my dad, because Monsieur Martin had given him a bicycle so it would be easier for him to come and see me. And he would come every night, and I would go and wait. I didn't know what time it was, but somehow I felt when he was going to come. And I'd wait at the end of that little path, and he would come on that bike, and he would whistle a tune. And he would jump off the bike and hold me and play with me, and then, of course, go back to the camp. And that went on. I was with the Martin family. I played in the yard. And as a matter of fact, I had no toys, and I wasn't allowed to play with other children, just in case I would say something. I knew I was Jewish. I knew Jew, but I didn't know what the word Jew meant. I knew that I was different. I knew that I was being hunted because of that word, but I really didn't know what it meant. And one day I saw this big truck at the end of the path, and I ran in to tell Madame Martin, and she immediately took my hand and brought me into the bedroom where I slept with all the girls, and lifted up the mattress, put me with my head down on the spring. At that time, there were no box springs, there were springs, so that I could breathe. And put everything back on top of me. They came into the house and looked around, even came into that room. They didn't find me. So it was another miracle. Then one day, I was waiting for my dad at the end of that path. And there was no bicycle coming. And no whistle, and I'm waiting, and still nothing. And I waited some more. And I saw a carriage, a horse-drawn carriage. And pretty soon I saw it was Monsieur Martin. And he stopped and he grabbed me and he said, "They were taken." And I knew. I knew that my dad I might never see again. And because of that word, Jew, I knew. And probably that because of that word, they were after me too. Life went on. They came to the farm again, and I was hidden again. But that family was so good to me. They took me to church, but I want you to know they never tried to change me. I wanted that the youngest girl, Odile, had, I think, what you call it here is a confirmation with the white dress and a white veil. I wanted that, but they said no. But I went to church every Sunday with them. I learned from them. I learned about the earth. I learned whatever they could teach me. And my father was taken on a French train, SNCF. He was taken to Auschwitz, and because all the men in the camp, by the way, I guess they didn't need any people to cut wood anymore. They were all taken, but because they had been working in the forest, they were very strong. So they were picked to work, and they were put in a sub-camp called Monowitz. Unfortunately, one day, I found out this later, my father was not at roll call. He had been taken to Großrosen, another camp, and then on to Buchenwald, and then on to a subcamp of Buchenwald called Langenstein-Zwieberg. They were digging into the Harz Mountains to build airplane parts for the Luftwaffe. And my dad was murdered. He was murdered on April 6th, and our American Army came in on the 11th. Finally, I stayed with the Martin family until the war ended, and my mother came for me. And I went back to Paris, and it was a shambles. But then I learned what Jew meant. I learned that I was Jewish. My mother put me in a camp, a Jewish camp. There was an outfit called the Bricha. They were going all over Europe to find Jewish children who had been left without parents. And eventually they went to Israel, but I still had my mother, so I didn't go. I came to the United States. Go on with that.
And actually, is the segue into, having lived through the darkest period in Jewish history, how do you relate to what you're seeing today in a country that you love as a proud American Jew?
I came to America, and I fell in love with America. I did not speak a word of English when I came. I came by myself when I was 10 and a half years old. And I went to school, and I also went to camp. By the time I came back from camp, I spoke English with an accent. And I decided that I want to be an American. And I practiced until I didn't have an accent. You can still hear a little something. I started speaking to schools in 1985 because when we came here, we were told that we should forget everything that happened. Don't speak about it, don't think about it. So it was all in here. But finally, I started, and I never stopped. I never believed that anti-Semitism was over. I know most Americans felt that it was, but it was hidden, unfortunately. I love America, I want you to know this. And it hurts to see what is happening. I listen to the young people that were just here. And when I saw what happened on the 7th, and what is happening, I cry inside. Not in America. I don't want to believe that it is happening here. But thank God that we have people like the Martin family and like you, because you are the righteous Gentiles of today.
I want to thank you for your bravery, thank you for your words, and never stop talking.